We are live here on One Royal Way, here on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Joel Penfield. Josh Keiser joining me tonight. Jordan Foote is not with us. Currently on a golf trip in Colorado, probably shooting somewhere around like 105, 107. Do you have any predictions, Josh? What do you think Jordan's doing right now?
I think the over-under should be in 115 just out of principle for missing the week. So I'm going to go 115 and a half and say the over. It's my prediction.
Fair enough. Although, like playing in Colorado, though, like the elevation, you're hitting the ball a little further. I'll give him a little more credit.
Does the elevation, I mean, you got to slice it through that purple haze to get that
Hey,
distance, to get that yardage. So
listen, man, it's not a slice, it's a power fade.
that's true. Get a little backspin on that thing, it'll soak right through there.
Oh, absolutely. Loaded show tonight. We appreciate you guys tuning in live with us. We don't do this very often. We like doing it. Be sure to hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube right now. Leave comments. We'll answer questions throughout the show if we have the time for it. If we have some time at the end, we may do a little Q&A if you guys want that as well. So be sure to follow us on the audio side as well if you are interested in that. Tough night, tough week for the Royals. Coming in now, it's essentially the game is in hand for Cleveland as we're recording. So that would make losses in 7 of 9. The almost antithesis of where we were when we recorded this time last week. Lose 3 of 4 to Minnesota. Lose 2 of 3 to San Diego at home. And then you're probably going to drop the first game tonight against the Guardians. This is a really tough stretch. You got 2 more against Cleveland. You're back home against Seattle, 4 against the Yankees, and 3 against the Dodgers. We're going to learn a lot about this team over the next week and a half or so.
Yeah, and I think that started with tonight, potentially the most winnable game. And they had it in hand. They had a 5-run lead going into the 6th or the 7th. Started making that comeback, but yeah, I think tonight might have been the best shot, but again, we're not out of any position to lose any of these games. The Royals are still very, very good. We still got plenty to root for here and watch. So this is still a very big series, and it's only going to get harder from here, I think.
Yeah, this was probably the most gettable game, but Brady Singer still has pitched very well this year. So I still feel like there's opportunities there, and we'll see what they get out of Daniel Lynch in that fourth slot, starting from Michael Walker, which we'll get to in a little bit. Before we move forward, this show, as always, brought to you by Empires Bank, our partners in possible on this show and at KCSN. David Reed with a point here, and which is true. Like tonight is the type of game that we've seen long losing streaks start on. And I had that thought earlier, but I think this is a different team in this way. They've done a very good job of not letting gut punch losses affect them. And more often than not, when they've had games like this, they've come back and won the next day. So I think there is a great mentality in the clubhouse of wear this one, this sucks. Then you get up the next morning, it's a new day, it's a new ball game. Yesterday is in the past. Let's go win the ball game today. And that's not just something, that's not some coach speak thing. Like that clearly is a mentality that this team carries, both the manager and the players. So while I agree that yes, that is the past, but this is a completely different team than we've seen in years past, almost entirely. So I'm not gonna give too much credence to it until it actually happens.
Yeah, definitely seems like this team has been built to respond, and they have just kept continually stepped up to it. I will say that we had Reagans, we had Lugo. Those are the 2 big blood stoppers in this rotation. But this whole rotation has been really, really good. Like you said, Brady Singer has been good here. So I don't love to be able to turn it over to the bottom of the rotation to match up against this solid Cleveland rotation. But at the same time, this team has only responded in these types of situations this year. And yeah, this is how long losing streaks happen, but this is also how momentum is built. And you kind of climb out of that hole and start to realize what you're really made of, especially during these long stretches like this against tough opponents. This is how stuff is built. This is how October momentum is built. It starts in, maybe it's a little bit soon to say it in June, but this is where it starts considering who they're playing over the next 2 weeks. So it's not panic time. It is this sucks, like you said. That is one of the bigger kick to the nuts I think that they've experienced this year. They've had a couple walk-offs that were definitely kind of in the same vein, but your superstar making a brutal error to allow 3 runs to score. That is not how you draw it up. It does not feel good. But Good news is they get to lace them up and play again tomorrow to rebound. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that.
That's why baseball's great. Going through the transactions over the past week, Tyler Duffy, after being DFA'd, was outrighted to Omaha, so he's still there, not on the 40-man roster. We had Daniel Lynch had a back and forth couple of days. So Carlos Hernandez, who had pitched 3 out of 4 days after coming back to Kansas City and didn't look great. The command still had some significant issues. Daniel Lynch was recalled, and he was recalled because Brady Singer was sick, missed his last start. Wild day. Apparently, I heard from somebody there in the media that he went from Indianapolis, where I believe the Royals were, or the Storm Chasers were, to Charlotte, to the Twin Cities overnight. Gets in really early on. Was that Wednesday morning or Thursday morning, whatever it was, and turns around, has a spot start, and was fine. Like, not for given the circumstances, I thought he was fine. And we're going to see and we'll see him in a larger sample here in a bit. After that game, Daniel Lynch is optioned back to Omaha. Will Klein is up, and we're going to talk about him a little more later. And then Daniel Lynch is back on the roster because Michael Wacha hit the 15-day injured list with a left foot fracture. It happened on the first batter of the game on Friday night. Arise hit a ball and right off the top of his foot, hit him flush. And then he goes out and still gives you 5 1/3, a 3-run ball or 2-run ball. So, credit there. He was in a walking boot after the game. He said it was pretty tender. It was once the adrenaline from the game wore down, he felt it a little more, but said it was precautionary. They're trying to get the swelling down, see where it's at. 2 days later, he hits the injured list with a foot fracture. Light activity for 7 to 10 days, and then they'll reintroduce baseball activity, hoping for 3 to 4 weeks, but there's no definitive timetable at this time because fractures, it's tricky on when it actually heals, especially those bones on the top of your foot. Kyle Isbell left yesterday's game on Sunday, or left Sunday's game. I wrote this yesterday. Left Sunday's game with a non-concussive head neck injury. Looks like he went to dive for a ball and his head kind of snapped back, hitting Bobby's leg, something along that line. Doesn't seem serious, but he is not in the lineup today. Certainly, it seems like it's a day-to-day thing, and they will hope to avoid an IL stint there. Man, Kyle Isbell's been getting beat up the last week and a half.
Yeah, and they're weird freak injuries
smoked
too.
Smoked in the nose with a foul ball, and then head neck injury. Hopefully, he's all right. Michael Massey got an injection in his back to help with recovery and help speed up, but he has not started full baseball activity yet. In the report from Andy Rogers that once he feels comfortable swinging, he'll go on a rehab assignment, but there's no definitive timetable there. Back injuries are so tricky. I get it. They should take his time. Nick Lofton has filled in, just fine to this point. Not the same sort of thump in offensive production, but put together solid at bats. Chris Bubich made a rehab start in Omaha, 3 2/3, 1 hit, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. Seems like he's getting back. Fastball 90 to 92, hit a 94. Which is a really good sign for where he is at in his recovery, that he can come help the big league roster here pretty soon. I know I just talked there for a little bit. I don't want to cut you off for too much longer, Josh. You have any thoughts here on either the transactions or the injuries at this point?
There were a couple updates from Andy Rogers in the pregame today. She said Kyle Isbell's okay, just getting another day to recover from the collision, available off the bench tonight. It looked scary. It looked scary both for Bobby and Kyle. It looked like, especially when it was Bobby's knee came through and hit Kyle on the head. And then he came down and kind of did that whip thing that you see quarterbacks kind of get when they get
whiplash,
they hit the ground. Yeah, those kind of concussions. So that was kind of the update, was that it was like a neck. It was a non-concussive head neck situation going on. But yeah, day to day, it sounds like. And then the Michael Massey update is that he's getting an MRI right now, which was about 4:00 today. Results will give a better idea for a timeline. So that is the update on the two of them. MJ Melendez wasn't in the lineup against the righty today. They just want to get him working on something with Zumi, it sounds like, according to Andy Rogers. So there's some stuff that they're trying to work on with him to get through this slump. And then there was a Colin Selby was put on the 7-day IL. He's an Omaha Storm Chaser. We probably touched base on that a little bit, but we did see him at the major league level earlier this season from the Pirates too. So There's a couple updates from Annie Rogers, but as a whole, you're right. We're going to kind of see what this is about and what this team is made of, especially with Waka. They need to replace his on-field production and his off-the-field leadership. We mentioned Lynch, and we got to see Lynch take that step forward. We need to see Singer continue to be consistent in that now that 3 spot. See if he can step up and be that guy, and then see if Marsh can bounce back from his couple rough starts there in a row, become that number 4 guy and be consistent that way. But being able to have Chris Bubich relatively close is nice to see, just in case Daniel Lynch is not going to do it. Still got Jonathan Bolin there in Omaha that's probably stretched out and ready to roll. He did get beat up in his last couple starts as well. So on the field production, we're going to have to see these boys step up, next man up mentality, and try to replace the production that Michael Waka is. Now, on the leadership standpoint, we're really going to see what kind of cultural change that Michael Waka and Seth Lugo brought to that rotation. We always see them huddling up when one pitcher is taken out with the rest of them. We're going to really see, especially in those road games, because usually injured players don't travel with the team on those road games. So we're going to have to see somebody step up into that leadership role that Michael Waka was kind of undertaking and be that guy that's able to kind of bring these guys back up and keep them consistent. So it's going to be, like I said, this is a tough stretch over the next couple weeks at Cleveland versus Seattle. It's the Yankees, and then at LA. I looked at this. Those 4 teams coming in today are the 1st, 2nd, 9th, and 22nd best lineups according to WRC Plus. And this is a pitching staff that a bullpen has been pretty shaky over the weekend. We see, a starter go down in Michael Waka. So they're going to get tested over these next couple of weeks, and we really got to see what these boys are made of.
Real quickly before we move on, Chris Bubich did pitch tonight for the Omaha Storm Chasers. 4 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 4 strikeouts to 1 walk, 73 pitches in those 4 innings. So he is getting significantly stretched out to start games. I don't think we see him until the first part of July, but it is encouraging that he's lengthened out that far early enough in his rehab assignment to get there. So good sign there. So now we're going to go to our weekly takeaways here. I had a much better take on this before the whatever happened tonight. But I do want to talk about the resiliency of the team on Sunday. And it's something I've talked about a lot this year, that we've seen them take some gut punches. We've seen them take some losses that are uncharacteristically bad. I was at the game on Friday. Literally never seen anything like what I saw in that 8th inning, but that the Padres had.
Stupid. The dumbest thing.
11 hits, 9 runs, 10 of those hits were singles, 7 consecutive singles to start the inning. A handful were really hard hit, but it was a lot of 50 hoppers just underneath gloves. And it's like, you have got to be kidding me. It was like watching Army go 19 plays for 97 yards. And there's just nothing 4 yards a pop. They're not doing anything fancy, and you just can't stop it. It didn't make any sense. It was weird. But then they find a way to come back, and Nelson Velasquez was the tying run, so they came close.
4 feet short. It was out in 21 of 30 parks. What
you could feel? I was in the press box. You could feel everyone lean forward. Is that gonna go? Everyone, it kind of dawned on them at the same time that 1, Velasquez was the tying run, and 2, he hit that ball, and you feel everyone go, no way. It was wild. Sunday, just a tough one. Not much you can do about that. I was just getting flat out beat. But Sunday, you're in it the whole game. You're right there, close game. The bullpen doesn't come through again, and it's like, God dog it. Gut punch again. You lose another game in the late innings. And lo and behold, Velasquez comes up, ties the game, loft and sack fly, you win. That's what good teams do. And the loss tonight notwithstanding, we've seen that type of stuff from the Royals more than we have letting the losses pile up. They still, despite this stretch where they've lost 7-9, they have not lost more than 3 in a row all season, and they've never gotten swept yet. And we're in the middle of June. That is really hard to do, even for really good teams, to make it this far and not have that type of losing streak or get swept in a series. So that speaks to where this team is at, where this team is heading beyond this year, that they're learning how to win. They're not letting these losses affect them so much that 1 loss turns into 5. They're not letting the game today beat them tomorrow, which is the mark of a good team. So this stretch, it happens to every team. I think at this point, the the Texas Rangers. They had lost 8 of 11 by, it was August a couple of years ago. And the Atlanta Braves, who won the World Series, were still under 500. So teams go through stretches like this, but the good teams find ways to not let it linger. And that's where we're going to see what this team is. And that kind of leads into your point here, Josh.
Yeah. I mean, that was essentially it was just like being able to respond and being able to recover and seeing what this team is made of is basically my takeaway for the week. So I kind of made that point, but I do want to come back, put a pin in that as well. Somebody pointed out on Twitter that the 2015 World Series team also had a stretch where they lost 9 of 11. So I mean, these types of things happen. Yeah, it probably was Lesky because he is a very smart man, very good at this this thing. But yeah, it is a situation where they're going to have to show us what they're made of. And so far, what they've shown us is that they're resilient and they respond. So at this point, the only thing that the best indicator of what's going to happen in the future is what's happened in the past. And that's been the case for the Royals. Over the weekend, we mentioned that the bullpen was pretty shaky and they did allow some bad things to happen, but Captain Optimism is going to put his hat back on here. James MacArthur on that comeback with San Diego, he inherited 2 runners through, was that right? Down 3-1, 2 runners, no outs in the 8th, and not a single runner scored in that game. And then Will Klein came in, got 1, 2, 3. Sam Long has done really, really good. We've seen John Schreiber. We've seen Angel Zerpa both have success. These are all guys that you can actually put in and be the backbone of a bullpen and be a successful team. We've seen them all have success over those stretches. Now, are they dominant? Are they able to miss a lot of bats? No, that is not the case. And that is a big thing. But I think that also shows you, we could talk about it later in our game we got playing for everybody here, that you have one impact closer acquisition and that bullpen completely turns over. So I'm not at all like super worried about it. I know the metrics aren't great and the stats aren't great either, especially here lately, but there are some bright spots in that bullpen that I do want to make sure that everybody kind of maintains through this too.
With my spotlight pitcher is a reliever, so I kind of want to dive into a little bit of a deeper bullpen conversation here when we get there. But before we do that, we have to hit a quick break, and we'll be right back.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
What's up? It's Tucker Franklin here to tell you about our wonderful friends at PXG. And as a golfer for years, I've been hearing people saying, nobody makes golf clubs the way they do at PXG, period. And you know what? I gotta tell you, they are right. I went in and I swung that PXG Black Ops driver, and it is a total game changer. I no longer have to sacrifice distance for forgiveness. Got to meet up with Alex. She is the best at the Kansas City location when it comes to fitting. And look, she gave me a personal experience. We got to hone in some of my swings. We got to add some distance, add some different flexes to my driver, add some different weights in the head and the toe. We moved it all around. We got it all figured out, but it's a personalized experience just for you and the world-class team of PXG experts. Not just Alex, Marcus over there too. Incredible at what they do. They give you feedback in real time. It is quite the pampering experience. You guys should go check it out. And if you're thinking that this might be too much, like PXG's high-quality performance equipment is too much, their clubs are often cost less than the so-called leading brands. PXG made me a believer. They'll do the same for every golfer in Kansas City. Visit pxg.com/OneRoyalWay to schedule your fitting at PXG Kansas City. That's at 7517 West 119th Street in Overland Park. Get fitted for any club and you'll get a dozen golf balls free. That's pxg.com/OneRoyalWay to schedule your fitting. pxg.com/OneRoyalWay. Limit 1 dozen golf balls per person. Promotion ends June 30th. Other terms and conditions may apply. See store for details.
Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You're still with us. We really appreciate you guys tuning in to a live edition of the podcast here on YouTube. And we appreciate all the audio listeners that will be listening on Wednesday. Let's get into our player spotlights here. I'm going to talk about Will Klein he has been really solid. And now it's only a 3-inning sample, but he is different than what we have seen from Royals relievers this year in the fact that he can blow dudes away with 99. That's just not what this bullpen does. They don't miss a ton of bats. They don't have a lot of they don't strike a ton of dudes out. They are predominantly sinker ballers that are inducing ground ball contact. Will Klein can reach back and throw triple digits if he needs to, which is something this bullpen desperately needs. We talked about that with Carlos Hernandez. Carlos Hernandez was all over the place. The command was very, very spotty. And that has been the thing that Will Klein has struggled with in the minor leagues, was he walks a ton of dudes because he's either going for the strikeouts and the command is lacking. He has 6 strikeouts to 0 walks so far in the big leagues, which is huge. I understand it's 3 innings, but not often do you see relievers with that type of stuff and that type of velocity and that type of track record get to the big leagues and then not walk guys in their first couple of innings, especially when you got to slow your heart rate in those first couple outings. The other thing I thought was interesting is I looked at the Stuff Plus model for all the Royals pitchers, and the Royals have good pitches overall, but Will Klein is the only pitcher with 3 pitches. Everything's over 100, which is league average or better. 110 on the fastball. It's the 4th best fastball that the Royals have. The slider is a 119, 19% above league average. Royals actually have good sliders pretty much across the board. 5th best slider. Yep. And then the curveball is basically first because Colin Selby has the best at 144. But I think I'm just going to go with Will Klein, 128. And that is better than, stuff-wise, better than Chris Stratton or James MacArthur or Seth Lugo, which I thought was interesting. Now, this is a 3-inning sample. Oftentimes, it takes about 10 innings for Stuff Plus to stabilize. So a couple more outings will give, but it's just an early look at a guy with really good stuff, a guy that can clearly run it up there into the upper 90s, can handle, high leverage stuff. That was very high leverage in the 9th inning on Sunday. You got to keep him in it's a 2-run game. Got to keep it there. Goes 1, 2, 3, no problem. So I think Will Klein's here to stay. I'd be shocked if it would take him just completely like self-immolating for him to have to go back down to Omaha. But with what this bullpen needs right now, a guy that can go and get outs and get swing and miss, Will Klein's perfect for that right now.
I think right before he got called up, didn't he retire like 17 batters in a row or something like that?
Something like that, yeah. He had a really good stretch before he got called back up.
Yeah. International reliever of the week, I think the week prior to his call up. So the pedigree was there, the production was there, the stuff is there, like you said. Will Klein, I agree, here to stay, and welcome to Kansas City long term, hopefully. My guy, I want to kind of spotlight. He had an okay week.
Before we go to Cole Raines, can I mention one more point about the bullpen? And I just want
100%
want to hear your thoughts. And it kind of goes into the game we're going to play later, but I just want to get this out here before my brain it's lost, forever. The people have been dunking all over everybody in the Royals bullpen. Send everybody down, bring up all these guys, whatever. Like it was very much 2022 and 2023 Royals Twitter on Friday, Saturday, and tonight. I do not think that James MacArthur, John Schreiber, Angel Zerpa are bad pitchers. I think they are all very competent big league relievers. But they are better suited getting the innings that Will Smith, Chris Stratton are getting. Will Klein when he was coming up. Like they should not, like those are guys that are probably best middle relievers that are having to masquerade as high leverage relievers because they don't have the strikeout stuff that high leverage dudes need in this day and age of baseball. So this is not me saying I don't like James MacArthur because I think he's good. I like Angel Zerpa. I think he's impressed me way more than I could have imagined this year. John Schreiber has been a great process move by JJ Picollo. But I don't think those guys should be covering your 7th, 8th, 9th like they have been. Over a long term, sure. If you need Angel Zerpa to give you the 8th, he can, but not every time. I think that's been proven out. And that, sometimes it all comes out in the wash, and this is just the way it goes. This is where Will Klein matters. And if he can handle high leverage, you have a guy that can throw 99 that you can go to ninth and not 94 to 96 that you're hoping can maybe get a swing and miss. At best, you're hoping it's a weak ground ball that gets you out of the inning. Like, it's a completely different way to look at it. And this is where they're going to have to find swing and miss on the trade market too, if they're serious about being competitive. And this is where I thought it was interesting too with JJ. He talked on Friday and they asked him about calling up guys from AAA, like John McMillan, bring maybe a Colin Selby back, maybe a Walter Pennington. And he said, we like those guys, but we're playing meaningful baseball right now. We can't run tryouts like we did last year. Like, it's entirely different. And I know that people will want to talk out of both sides of their mouth. They want all these guys gone. We want Walter Pennington. Well, if Walter Pennington gets shelled, then everyone's like, well, why did we call up this guy from AAA? Clearly he can't hack it. Like, you can't have it both ways, folks. So if you want this guy, don't complain. That's all I'm going to say. Like, and this is not me saying that Walter Pennington can't hack it. He probably can, but we don't know. And I don't know if the Royals being 8 to 10 games over 500 want to find that out in real time with live bullets going.
Yeah, and meaningful baseball, like you said, it's not, and I agree with that, and I appreciate that about the cultural change that seems to happen in that clubhouse. It's a expectation driven and production driven type of atmosphere, and it should be. That's what competitive baseball teams do. At the same time, you got to be able to use those guys like the Penningtons, like the Sam Longs, like the Will Kleins, like the John McMillans when you need to. I do get and appreciate not wanting to mess with a good thing. If there's a good clubhouse currently going on, just continually interchanging pieces whenever you don't. An injury is kind of different. Like, you have no choice at that point. But if you're switching guys out, especially underachieving veterans like Nick Anderson and Will Smith, whenever you need to make that call, you never know how that's going to affect the clubhouse. So they know better in that way, but we can all still see the numbers on the outside, and we can still question what the benefit of some of these guys are. I have been on a soapbox about Garrett Hampson, and apparently I am wrong because he is very good, and I was supposed to be eating my hat a long time ago. It's just kind of how it is. We just kind of have to write it out. At the same time, I completely agree with your point, and it was the same situation that I was talking about, that if you acquire someone to be able to push those guys back in leverage situations, that's going to be huge, and that's kind of why I like the Will Kleins and the guys that are coming up and having some success, because those guys could potentially be those leading guys. I still would like to see some evolution from guys like Angel Zerpa. He's hitting 97, 98 all of a sudden. He hasn't thrown a single strike when he hits that velocity yet. James MacArthur kind of seems like I've seen him. It's always like the curveball in that lower outside corner, which is filthy. It's a really good pitch, but it just seems like that's what he has. I haven't seen what else he has, it seems like. So I want to see the evolution of these guys before I really get too sold on them not being high leverage guys. I want to see John Schreiber being used as a fireman and not necessarily an 8th inning setup guy. I think he kind of shines in that fireman role way more so than trying to be a setup guy. So we'll see. I want to see a little bit better, production from this bullpen, and if that takes switching some veterans out for some guys that are doing work down in Omaha, then that's just how baseball is. It's a business. You gotta produce. You got to get out. So it's fun to see that cultural change and see where this where this mindset is going. But we're just gonna have to see it some more.
Yeah. So I interrupted you before you got to talk about Cole Reagans. Please proceed, sir.
I mean, again, by his standards, his week was good, not great. Had a couple starts since we last talked where he went 5 and 6 innings, gave up a couple earns, didn't strike out a bunch, but still, gave him a really, really good, a good showing, all things considered, what we've seen from the starting rotation the last couple of years. But I wanted to look at his 2024 ranks and just see how good he is and how much we should appreciate Cole Reagans and what he's doing so far. He is 3rd in the majors in FIP at 2.26, which is lower than his ERA among qualified starting pitchers. That is only behind 2 pitchers in the MLB, Tanner Houck and Tarek Skubal. 2 very good years, 2 very good pitchers. He has a 13th best K- walk rate in the majors amongst qualified starting pitchers. His 4-seam is the best rated 4-seam in the major leagues, according to Baseball Savant. His changeup is getting a 43.5% whiff rate. That's nasty. nastiness from Cole Reagans, and we just need to appreciate what he's doing. This is something that we haven't seen since Zach Greinke in his prime, since 2009, 2010. This is stuff that we as Royals fans need to appreciate what we're seeing from Cole Reagans as he's doing. He's got that ace factor. 5 of his 12 starts so far has been coming off a loss. He has been expected to stop the bleeding as aces do, and in those starts, he has gone 30.2 or 30 and 2/3 innings pitched, a 1.76 ERA, 6 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, and a 10.9 K per 9. That is how an ace stops the bleeding. We have that guy in Cole Reagans now. We have that guy in Seth Lugo now. That's why this team is where they are, is we're on the backs of the starting pitching, starting with the ace, Cole freaking Reagans. Shout out to Cole Reagans. We only spotlighted him one time so far, so had to be done.
I know. Hey, did you know that the Royals got Cole Reagans for half a season of Aroldis Chapman?
It sure did. Sure did. It's very
unbelievable. He is so much fun to watch because it is, and I loved that 6th inning against the Padres the other day because he's pretty like a pretty unassuming guy.
Oh,
like he's
yeah,
just
I was talking about.
Cool hand Luke. Just
yep.
I'm not moving from here. All and in the clubhouse, super quiet. Just nice guy. Haven't got the chance to speak to him, but to see the interactions, like he's a solid dude. And he let out that roar when he punched out. I can't remember who it was. Might have been Cronenworth with a breaking ball.
Yeah.
And like he let out that, and I was like, yes, that's what I need. That's what I need for my ace. Like hold together. Yeah. Like that's what I need. And I love it. And if you get the chance to go to the game this weekend, he's pitching on Saturday against Luis Castillo. That is going to be a deal fest.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's going to be fun. Before we move on here, I do want to spotlight Nelson Velasquez as well.
Why?
So I went back a little bit. So this is a larger sample, and I'm not going to talk about the batting average because it's not great. But
don't worry about that. It's not what he does.
So this is since May 14th, which if you don't know, because I love using arbitrary cutoffs, that is the game where he hit the go-ahead 3-run home run off Logan Gilbert when it looked like the Royals were going to lose 1-0 and it was a brutal game. And he hits the 3-run homer that shocked everybody in the stadium. Since then, he's slugging .593 with a 127 weighted runs created plus. ISO is 389. He has 9 hits or 11 hits in this stretch. 6 of them are homers, 1 double, 1 triple. So he has found the power swing again, which is what he does, which is why I'm not talking about the batting average because I don't care. I also don't really care about batting average that much anyways. Put it in context. The weighted on base average, which looks at quality of contact, is 353 in the stretch, which is really solid. So he's finding it again. And the BABIP on this is 143 because he's hitting the ball out of the ballpark during this stretch. They talked. I remember a couple of weeks ago, one of the reporters in the pregame asked Q about Nelson Velasquez and what to do. Said he is working relentlessly with the hitting coaches, trying to marry. There's something a little bit off in his swing. And is whatever it is, something in his swing was a little off, and they're trying to marry it back to what he was doing last year. And it's just a little bit of a work in progress through muscle memory. Seems like he's figured it out because he's hitting for the power that we saw last season. And that at bat on Sunday was massive. Like that is an unbelievable moment for him. Deployed perfectly. Like I'm going to give Mac Truro a ton of credit. Like that whole sequence was amazing. You get to the Salvi walk, you pinch run Dairon, you pinch hit Nelly for Frazier, and you get the favorable matchup and he comes through. Like that's the kind of stuff that while Michael Massey's out, like we've talked about before, we know that Michael Garcia, Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez are going to drive in runs and they're going to produce. But someone 5 through 9 has to. And Nelson Velasquez has been that guy for the last couple of weeks. So I'm hoping that he's able to continue this. If he hits 240, I'm happy because that means he's probably going to pop somewhere between 20 to 25 homers. And in this stretch too, he's only striking out 24%. He's closer to 30 on the season. He strikes out 23%. I am fine. That's a perfectly sustainable number for him with the damage that he does at the plate. So this is a really good, really nice development to see.
Yeah, that's also something that this offense has done. By the way, is way better than you think it is on the season as a whole.
They have the third lowest strikeout rate in baseball.
That
as a team,
that checks out. But as like an OPS, like since I think it was like since the beginning of May, their second highest OPS. It's quietly doing plenty at the plate. But the thing that I like about it more is obviously being driven, and the consistent staples of that lineup are Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, both having MVP caliber seasons. And then you have the Michael Garcias and the Vinny Pasquantinos who have taken their slumps. They have absolutely gone the highs and they've gone the lows. Thankfully, a lot of the times they're kind of alternating, so that's nicely done. But there have been so many guys step up in weird, timely situations like Nelson Velasquez did. Garrett Hampson last couple weeks have been really good. Hunter Renfroe has hit a couple of big time jacks. Adam Frazier has hit a game-winning home run. It's robbed another home run. There's just been guys stepping up, and that is just, it's good to see this lineup be able to do that, because you don't absolutely rely on it has to be this guy, has to be this guy, and it has to be this guy. You can rely on two really, really consistent hitters and then two or three more that are just hot right now. And that's how good baseball team and good offensive kind of deal when you don't have a $300 million lineup every year. LA Dodgers looking at you.
Real quickly, I just noticed this, and I saw this tweet, and I had to go make sure it was real. And their tweet was including tonight, but I just wanted to look. Hunter Renfroe since May 12th. Have you seen it?
Tell me right now.
Let me get this pulled up here. I think Royals Review had it. Hold on.
Is it good?
It is good. It is. It's going to shock you. I promise. Hunter Renfroe slashing 283, 365, 522 since May 12th.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really good. But, and I'm going to say a but here, his strikeout rate is probably like 40 plus, which is an issue.
It's not even 20%.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Hunter Renfroe every day.
And he's walking 12%.
Let's go.
Hey, I'm glad.
I may have to rethink my answer for this game we're going to play later.
You know, hey, with new information, I can change my opinion. So.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Let's go to our favorite game. Jordan and I played this a couple weeks ago when you were out. So let's get transactional. Producer Nick, we need some theme music here. Come on, can you whip something up for us next time we do this?
Let's get transactional. I'll take that.
By the way, we didn't know. I didn't think he was actually going to come in with music. Let's go.
What an ace to have in your sleeve. What an ace to have up your sleeve. That's great stuff.
What a legend. All right. And we actually have the Excel sheet that we were going to, that I read off of last time when Jordan and I did this. But we're actually going to display it on screen here so you guys can take a look. And we'll explain it very similarly if we can get to that here. So you don't get to look at our faces anymore, but that's probably for the better. So if you take a look on the far left, where these are all the things that we're looking to possibly upgrade. We have internal options, a low-cost option, medium cost, and high cost based on trade value. And Josh has done the trade value chart, baseball trade values, which not an exact science, but certainly helps. It's just a tool to use for casuals like us. The low-cost option trade would be trading Nate Eaton and Tyson Guerrero for one of these players. The medium cost would be Tyler Gentry and Anthony Veneziano. And then the high-cost option, you change it, it's just Frank Mazzucato, correct?
That was for the lower right, the Mitch Spence and the Tanner Scott.
Got it.
Otherwise, it's just going to require that whole package to get the player.
So for our audio listeners, the high cost option is Blake Mitchell plus Caden Wallace plus Frank Mazzucato, with the exception of Mitch Spence and Tanner Scott. That's just a 1-for-1 swap with Mazzucato. So let's go to the utility option. Our internal one is Nick Lofton. That's who we could possibly go with. The low cost is Nick Senzel. The medium cost is Jesse Winker, and the high cost is Abraham Toro. Josh, I'll let you start here. What do you think? What would
We
you
probably
do?
need. There's one caveat here. You can only take one from each column, so you can't have like two deals. There's no two Adam or Nate Eatons to deal here. So you have to. You can only acquire one low cost option. So we need to throw that caveat in here. Between these three guys, I like Senzel. Jesse Winker is a real wild card and very polarizing character. And Abraham Toro, great year so far, but how much can you rely on that with the high cost option? So I'm passing on all three guys. I'm sticking with my guy Thick Lofton, waiting for Michael Massey to come back around and see where we are, and riding with Adam Frazier at this point.
I think that's probably what I would do as well. Like, I think Nick Lofton has been a really solid option for this team so far. I don't think you need to move off him or try and upgrade that position, because I think he's done just fine. Corner outfield, Drew Waters is our internal option. Low cost, Miguel Andujar. And if you're watching on, if you are audio only, his slash line so far this year is 394, 382, 636. Very small sample, but he's on like a 1-year deal. It's like 8 games. Medium cost is Starling Marte, and the high cost is Taylor Ward from the Angels, who we discussed last time. Man, well, why is Starling Marte's value like -25? What's the remainder of that deal?
I think he's both seasons at something like 19.6 million. So you'd be, unless I'm sure the Mets are probably throwing in some money on that deal if you're able to make it. But I think there's about 28 million left on that. And that was he 36 or something. He's
35. It'd be his age 35 and 36 seasons.
But the production is there. He's not great defensively. So this is a corner outfield situation, but his defense is not super hot. So I think that's why the Mets would potentially deal him, but also is still, his value is not great.
Yeah, I would just stick with Drew Waters in this scenario, because I think that Taylor Ward, like that price point is just too high for me, and I think he's good.
Wild.
It's just it'd be way too high. Andujar, like, if he keeps this up for another month, like, talk to me on July 1st about how I feel about Miguel Andujar. But for right now, I would just stick with Drew Waters as the internal.
That pumpkin's a coming, I think.
Probably. Designated hitter, our internal option is show favorite CJ Alexander. Low cost option, JD Martinez. Medium cost, Pete Alonso. We're just rating the New York Mets. Yeah. And then the high cost, Royals legend Brent Rooker.
Who's also very expensive. I don't know about that value of the 24.6, but
I think in all actuality, it would not cost that much to get Brent Rooker.
Probably not. It shouldn't.
Not at all. That one might fall into the 1-for-1 with Mazzucato, or 1-for-1 with Wallace. Something along that line would be my guess. But I don't know with Brent Rooker. He's not good defensively at all. So you can't even really stick him out in the outfield and pray it would be a DH spot. I'm going to stick with CJ Alexander on this one for this reason. The Royals are still going to need Salvador Perez to DH. Like, you can't, I think they are rotating DH pretty much between Vinny and Salvi all year. And Freddie Fermin is a really solid option as a backup catcher. So you can have Salvi, you don't have to sit Salvi. You can DH him if you want, and then have Freddie catch. So I think it would put too much of a strain on Salvi, because they would probably need to have him catch a lot more, and I don't think they want to do that over the full season.
Well, hit the bell, because I'm making a move this time. I am gonna take this JD Martinez low cost option. I'm gonna add an 800 OPS to the middle of this lineup with plenty of postseason experience. He's a veteran. He is just consistent, which is what this offense needs. We talked about earlier, Bobby Wood Jr., Salvador Perez have been the most consistent producers in this offense. You add JD Martinez into that lineup, the floor gets raised and the ceiling gets raised, and I think they do wonders for this lineup down the stretch. So I'm pulling the ripcord. I am trading for JD Martinez. Thank you for your service, Nadine and Tyson Guerrero. Good luck in New York.
I'll be honest. Today I learned that JD Martinez has a 134 weighted runs created plus.
Yeah,
I didn't know he was doing that well, but hey, if that's the case, I mean,
giddy up.
That'll play for sure.
Yep, giddy up.
I don't hate, and it's not, I am not dispelling the idea of making a move for he doesn't hit her with a floor like JD Martinez. I just think it logistically can get weird making Salvi catch a bunch in the dog days to try and keep him in the lineup.
Sure.
That's where I think it gets a little weird.
I saw an injury, a little day-to-day situation in Vinny where Adam Frazier was the cleanup hitter as the designated hitter, and I can't
that's
have
fair.
That. I can't have that.
Entirely fair. I understand. Now we're looking at a starting pitcher. Internal options being John Bolin, Daniel Lynch, Chris Bubich. You got Tyler Anderson from the Angels as our low-cost option. Eric Fetty of the Chicago White Sox medium cost, and Patrick Sandoval be the high cost option from the Angels. So Angels and Mets we're just rating them. See, I've always liked Patrick Sandoval, but I just could not give up that much to get him because I just don't know a ton. Tyler Anderson, the FIP is almost 2.5 runs higher than the ERA. So that's going to get real fun. And I don't want to be on the backside of that regression. So I actually do like Eric Fetty. I think that would be something I would really like that would raise the floor a pretty decent amount. You can pop him into that 5 spot. Maybe Alec Marsh goes to the bullpen and lets 98 to 99 eat there. Or if you want to save Lugo and Reagan's down the stretch, maybe you go to a 6-man rotation for a little bit, and that could be an option too. So I would actually like that move for Eric Fetty.
I'm with you. I'm pulling that cord again and going Eric Fetty. Productive and cheap. He's only going to make $7.5 million in 2025, off to a great start here in 2024. With the Marsh, I agree. I think he's the one who gets bumped, but I think he could be very good, and that could upgrade the bullpen without having to acquire anybody else. He's also kind of a insurance policy just in case that goes. So I think Eric Fetty makes that rotation more consistent, raises the floor and the ceiling for that rotation, which has been the backbone, like I said, of this team in 2024. The tricky part, it kind of comes in with the 2025 rotation. You got Cole Riggins and Seth Lugo and Brady Singer are pretty much set. Walker's got a player option for 2025. You also got Kyle Wright. You don't know what you're going to get from him. Bubich will be back to hopefully full steam. Then you got Lynch and Bolin still in that group. And then where does Fetty fall into that group? With just the $7.5 million, that's Lugo insurance, that's injury insurance, that's Walker player option insurance. So I think a good acquisition of Eric Fetty to add to this rotation would go pretty well. So I think I'm pulling that ripcord as well. And I've done 2 big moves. Let's see about that costly option. See where I'm at.
Yep. Late inning reliever. We talked about Will Klein. That's our internal option. Low cost is Michael Kopech from the White Sox. That's a half-year rental, and then I think he hits free agency. Carlos Estevez from the Angels, and then Hunter Harvey from the Washington Nationals, who has been awesome out of the bullpen this year.
Really good.
2.08 ERA in the FIP to match. And I believe there's still multiple years of
I think it's a year and a half.
I'm checking that right now because I really like this one, but I don't. Again, like the cost to me is crazy. I don't think it's going to cost that much to get him. Yeah, you have him for 2025, and then he's a free agent in 2026. But again, I don't think the Royals are going to make a huge changing move like we have on the far right side of our graph, showing the high cost. I think they're going to get better in the margins for this season and possibly beyond. So I'm going to take Michael Kopech out of this. And again, you get a fireball reliever that you can throw in the ninth inning if you need to. He's closed out games for a bad White Sox team, but if you just need triple digits in the eighth inning, it's there. So that would be where I go.
And I totally get that. I am a little bit leery about his volatility. He's not a 505 FIP, so that's not fun.
Yeah,
but he does
that's
absolutely
tricky,
he pumps cheddar. I mean, it's undeniable that he's a scary pitcher to go up against. I'm also kind of worried, if I recall correctly, he is a bit injury prone. He's had some injuries in the past.
Yeah,
if that's right.
But for half a season,
sure,
like
you'd think that he'd be fine with that. Yeah, he's building up his trade or his free agent market value, so I think that's a pretty good case to go after that. I also am intrigued by Hunter Harvey, but again, I think that's a high cost for a season and a half. And there's some other options coming up here. I do like Carlo Estevez. I don't know if he's a late innings guy more so than a middle reliever, but I do think he increases the floor. But I'm going to pass on the Hunter Harvey. That's the only one I have so far, or I have one left. So I'm going to pass on all of them.
Yeah, that's not a bad option either. I think if Will Klein can keep it up, then you feel pretty good about the back end of the bullpen in that regard. Middle inning reliever Carlos Hernandez is the internal option, so I'm probably going to take someone here. Royals legend Bert Smith is the low cost option.
I saw his name and I could not believe the stat line attached to it. He has had a resurgence in Miami.
Shout out to the Royals Deluxe podcast. Michael Farina, I think is his name. He has a weird love of Bert Smith, and I respect it.
It's valid now. It's validated.
Yeah. Austin Adams, medium cost option from Oakland, and then another pitcher from Oakland, Mitch Spence. And this is one that Josh worked out to where it would just be a 1-for-1 swap, Frank Mazzucato for Mitch Spence.
Mm-hmm.
I've made my feelings about Frank Mazzucato known.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, a guy with some significant control, I would take that swap.
Mm-hmm.
If that were the case. If that were the asking price, I would take that. And you would have Mitch Spence through, he's pre-arb next year.
2029.
Yeah, you got control through 2029. Guy with a 3.4 FIP, and he's 26 years old right now. Yep. I would take that option in a heartbeat.
I think I would too. Now that I'm kind of looking it over and I had a change of heart, I think he'd be a great candidate to throw into this bullpen and help out for years to come. He's only 26 years old, very, very good so far. So if he's available and we can get that deal done, I could probably seriously look at it and pull the trigger if I had to. But yeah, I'm out of options, and we have one more category left where Walter Pennington is going to forever be in my heart. So it's pretty easy.
I'm curious, just for funsies, did you try and do a Mason Miller trade?
Oh, I can do that while you go through this. I can look at that.
I love it. Just for shits and gigs, right?
Yep.
Left-handed relief pitcher, Walter Pennington's our internal option, show favorite. Low-cost option is Jalen Beeks, pitching for the Colorado Rockies, pitched for the Rays for quite a while. TJ McFarland, who I feel like has been in the big leagues for 27 years. I don't know about you, but I just know he's been around for a long time.
He's like 33 or 34, so that adds up.
Yep. And then Tanner Scott from Miami is the high-cost option. I'm staying away from the high-cost option here. The Tanner Scott's, I think he's good, but the 1.57 ERA coupled with a 4.05 FIP, don't love that. Even if it is a 1-for-1 swap with Mazzucato, I just don't like that. I'm probably just going to stick with Walter Pennington here. He's shown a significant amount of strikeout stuff. I think it could work. It could be one of those just diamond in the rough guys that figures it out and provide some innings as a lefty reliever. And I'd stick with him at this point, given the three options here.
Okay, this is gonna get hairy. So Mason Miller apparently has a $48 million projection on the baseball trade values. Blake Mitchell, our number one prospect, according to most sources, has $9 million at the current state of things. If we pair him and Freddie Fermin just for funsies, and then I don't know, Caden Wallace, and then Yandel Ricardo, that might get it done.
They just that would be
absolutely
nuts,
clear on the shelves. I don't know if that's happening. It would be fun.
It would certainly be fun, but is it practical? No.
Yep. So what were the transactions you did?
So I did. What did I pick?
Ufetti.
I think I only did Fetty and Spence. I think that was
Fetty
it.
and Spence. Yep.
No,
I
it
did
was
Fetty,
Fetty.
Spence, and then
Fetty.
threw a JD
So no, it was
Martinez.
Fetty. It was Fetty, Kopech, and Spence.
Okay. So you're really bolstering that staff. Yep. I like it.
Yep. Which I think that's what they need. Because I think the offense, I think, can get the Royals to October as presently constituted. But they have to solidify the back end of the bullpen and the back end of the rotation. And that's not an indictment on Alec Marsh. It's just they need guys. And I think that would be the way to do it.
And we don't necessarily have to do this right now. We can definitely see things kind of how they fall, how the trade market falls. I know JJ said today that they are just now starting to look at guys that could potentially fit into their needs at this point. So I don't think there's any rush. I think he did say that he would want to get on it as quickly as possible, but that's not at the beginning of June at this point. So we'll see.
Yeah. Looking ahead to this week in Royals baseball. Tomorrow, as you're listening to this on Wednesday, Brady Singer's going to go against Logan Allen, and then the Thursday game will be Daniel Lynch versus Tanner Beebe, and then it's Royals Mariners from Kauffman. Yes, Curtis, that is a great point. Let's see what we have in Pennington before we trade relievers. Get them out to 40 by DFA and Brents. That is the option. Jake Brents is down in AA right now and is still walking a bunch of guys. Like it sucks that that's how it's working out for him. Like I hate it, but it's a results-oriented business. At a certain point, like it's got to happen.
The Whammer's coming around seemingly in Omaha too, so we could see him starting to contribute at the major league level soon. So I think I agree. Yeah, that's a great point. We don't need to rush it, like we said, and there's options that we could potentially try out before we sell farms and sell guys. So great point.
Friday game against the Mariners will be Alec Marsh versus Bryce Miller. And then you get just some elite matchups on Saturday and Sunday. If you are a fan of good pitching, Royals or otherwise, get out to the K on Saturday, Sunday.
Yes.
Reagans, Luis Castillo, Seth Lugo, George Kirby. Those are 4 of the top 11 guys in Cy Young odds going Saturday and Sunday in Kansas City.
Wow.
That is going to be electric.
That's awesome.
I'm very excited for it.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to our bets for the week. Jordan can't participate, so he gets a wash, I guess.
We want to recap.
You guys, really solid. Well,
no,
well, let's say you use your powers for good. You use your powers for good. Josh said that Vinny Pasquantino was going to go under 4.5 hits before we talk next. And then Vinny had 8 hits in 4 games.
And he was dinged up. Like he got dinged up.
You failed to consider.
Then I still gave it, and he still just absolutely buried me. So
you failed to consider the bobblehead bump.
Oh, that's true.
You fell for one of the classic blunders.
Yeah. Did he go 3 for 4 that game? Was it 4?
3 for 5. He was on cycle watch after his first 3 at bats. It was pretty nice. He's got a triple before, so I can say it is cycle watch because he does have a triple.
Has. Yep.
Jordan had Salvador Perez going over 1.5 hits against Minnesota on May 29th, and he did 2 for 4, 2 RBIs. And then I had just pure vibes. I had Bobby hitting a homer on Friday, but he did go 3 for 5 with 2 stakes, but no homer. What do you have this week for your bet?
I've got Brady Singer over 3.5 runs on the start tomorrow on 6-5. His last 2 starts are progressive. The last 2 years, 2022, he went 5 2/3 and gave up 6 earned. And then last year, he only went 5 earned and also gave up 5 innings pitched and also gave up 6 earned runs. So I'm going to set the line at over 3.5 because he has been very good. But again, this is happiness insurance. This is the One Royal Way. Josh bets against you bump. And we're going to play it that way. So Brady Singer over 3.5 earns allowed against the Indians tomorrow. What do you got?
Whoa, hey now. What year is it, buddy?
Oh, what did I say? Year of our Lord. 2024.
Year. You can't be calling them the Cleveland Indians.
That's a great point. Oh no, I've just been canceled. I'm so sorry. So sorry.
So what I was going to say before your blunder there is
No.
now Brady Singer's going to go 7 shutty because you're using your powers for good. We appreciate you for that.
Yep.
I have Cole Reagans going over 7.5 strikeouts against Seattle. Seattle has the highest strikeout rate as a team in the majors, 27.7%. I had Brady Singer doing the same when they played Seattle. So I'm just going, he didn't quite get there, but Cole Reagans is a much more prolific strikeout pitcher. So I'm just going to go back to that well and say he's going to probably punch out 9 or 10 because that's just
Numbers
what the
are there.
Mariners do is they strike out a lot for a team that decided, yeah, we need to get more contact oriented and we're going to make trades to do that. And they're striking out more than last year, which is really impressive.
And as I mentioned earlier, I mean, Reagan's on the bounce back is very, very good. And there's a decent chance that Alec Marsh versus Bryce Miller, you're looking at a need for a bounce back and a bleed stopper. So, or a blood stopper. So that's, yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
That is going to do it. We normally do a minor league recap, but we're at an hour right now. So we're not going to do that. Producer Nick, we need to get him out of here and I need to go to bed. Josh, you have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I don't know. Just don't give up on this team. Even if they start losing a few games, they are still very much in the thick of it. The crowds out in Kaufman lately have been awesome to see. Do not give up on this team right now. They need us out there to show up in these stands to actually give them a home field advantage of these 2 big series between the Mariners and the Yankees coming up. So don't give up on this team. Keep rolling, keep the vibes going, keep the momentum going for these boys, and they'll pay you back.
I do want to shout out the Omaha Storm Chasers, even though we are not doing a minor league update. They are 39-16. We've talked about the minor leagues pretty much every week, and we have this completely went over our heads. I didn't even register. They are first in their division in the International League by 5.5 games, plus 83 run differential. So shout out to those guys for grinding away and getting some dubs.
Yeah, that's incredible. Did they win the night?
I have not looked.
That real quick. They're up 4-3 in the 8th.
Nice.
So let's go. Let's get there.
They might get to win 40 before lost 20. That's crazy.
That's what the Indians just did.
Hey.
Well, I did it again. The Guardians.
You did it again. We need to get out of here. We need to get out of here. Josh,
I gotta go.
Thank you so much. We will talk to y'all next week. It'll be me, Josh, and Jordan. We appreciate y'all. We'll talk to you soon.